These paintings have been stared at for 50 years and summarized under one word: nightmares. But there's a single fact about the man who made them that almost nobody mentions. The moment you know it, they stop being nightmares and turn into something much worse. Imagine standing at the foot of a hill of skulls, hundreds of them banked up in front of you. At the top there's a monument, and on it a hunched skull-headed figure. Its face stretches out into a long beak-like jaw. Behind it, a city is burning, the sky red and black with smoke. Down at the base, a crowd has gathered to watch. They're gaunt and half rotted, with the look of the long dead who haven't quite stopped moving. Look closely at one of them. Its eyes still hold a faint glow. It's the last bit of light left in the whole painting. This is an untitled painting by Beksinski, one of 4 we'll look at in this video, and every one of them holds some kind of haunting structures, unmistakably a building, and yet you can't say what it is. To understand these horrifying nightmarish megastructures and why a man would ever sit down to paint them, there's one thing we need to understand first. Beksinski trained as an architect, and he never chose a minute of it. He was born in 1929 in Sanok, an only child in an old family. After the war, he wanted to make films and become a director. His father said no. By his own gallery's account, the father didn't think film would give the boy a secure future, so he pushed him into architecture instead. Beksinski graduated as an engineer in 1952. Then he was put into construction work, which he hated, and after that he designed bus bodies at a factory, where his designs reportedly came out so strange that none of them were ever built. So he spent years learning to design and build things he never wanted to make. By the time he finally picked up a brush, the one thing he knew inside out was how buildings are designed, and you can see that training all over these paintings. Whatever these structures actually are, they're drawn with a real architect's eye, the detail, the logic, the sense of something actually planned. So let's get to the first painting. This one's from his fantastic period, late 60s to mid 80s, the stretch of which most of these paintings in the video comes from, and it's a different kind of horrifying than the Hill of Skulls. The painting's foreground is a desolate, rust-colored plain. It's empty as far as the frame runs, with a few twisted pieces of wreckage half sunk in the dirt to the left. The wreckage can also be interpreted as a dead alien life form, but neither has been confirmed by Beksinski. The middle band is the structure itself. The first thing you notice is the pale fog pouring down its front, thick enough that it reads as part of the building. Under it, the structure's foundation can be seen, and it reads as solid and stacked, detailed like real masonry. Near the top of the structure, set into the crowns of the towers, are round dark openings. Once you've seen them, the structure's towers begin looking alive. Those dark openings reads as eyes. With this in mind, the structure's towers starts to feel like the Tower of Sauron in Lord of the Rings, a building with a stair essentially. Hold on to that opening near the top, because it turns up again in a minute, and this is where you can see the architecture in Beksinski's work. The structure is essentially impossible to read as something concrete, but it's drawn with the solidity of something real. That's what makes the contrast land. Everything around it is dead wasteland essentially. The plain is empty, scattered with wreckage, nothing else left standing for as far as you can see. The building isn't touched though. Either it survived whatever hit the landscape, or it's the thing that did the hitting. The painting lets both stand, which leaves us the viewers with a problem only our imagination can solve. He does the same thing on another canvas. This time there are 2 towers, side by side, taller and much thinner than the previous one. The structure here looks more grown and upright, rather than built and compressed. It's made of long vertical strands, and near the top of each one, there's that opening again, the ones that resemble eyes, though this one reads slightly weaker in my opinion as eyes. The ground around them is a wasteland. Stumps and stakes poke up out of the dirt, the leftovers of a flattened world, or perhaps the remains of a city after a nuclear bomb detonated. Dust is rising around the base. It's thick enough that the towers look like they're lifting out of it, or perhaps made of the fog itself. We are once again, as viewers, left with the same problem. Was the structure left untouched after a disaster, or is the structure the cause behind the disaster? This next one looks like a pane torn out of Lovecraft, at the Mountain of Madness perhaps. An explorer going somewhere he shouldn't, and finding the remains of an ancient race built into rock. The foreground is a single figure on the floor of a ravine, walking forward towards us and holding a torch in his left hand. The light from the torch is so weak against the space that it barely reaches his own feet. The middle band is the right hand wall, and this is the part that gets under your skin. Lodged into the rock at intervals are shrouded shapes, draped and vaguely human, set into the stone as if the wall swallowed them on its way up. The painting's background is the scale itself. The walls climb up and out of the frame on both sides, with a strip of sky caught between them. Near the top right wall, there's a flock of birds, and they are what gives these statues their immense size. Against the statues, the birds reach like mere specks. What sets this painting apart from the others is the humanoid figure. The fortress and the towers were empty. Here, there's a person with a torch walking, and the moment you add him, you add a story. Someone came down here on purpose, looking for something, or perhaps he's lost in a most desolate and alien place. To me, that's why the Lovecraft comparison holds. The place is alien enough and indifferent enough to the man crossing it, that it sits in the exact register Lovecraft worked in. And whatever the story is behind those statues, it for sure doesn't feel like something good. Alright, last painting before we leave Beksinski, and this is the one where the structure stops pretending to be a building at all. The painting's foreground is the near columns. The first thing you notice is that they look like bone, knuckled and femur-headed, though nobody can say for sure that that is what Beksinski meant. The ground they're rooted in looks like soft tissue from the inside of a body. The middle band is the avenue they form, running down both sides, leading your eye back into a green haze, the way the columns of a church leads you towards the altar. The background is where they point you, a steep structure sitting in the haze at the end. A colonnade has one job. It's a row of columns built to move you and your eye in a straight line towards whatever waits at the far end. You find them in temples and on the approach to a tomb. Anywhere a building wants you to arrive at a single time and feel small doing it. That is exactly what this painting is doing, and it is once again the architecture in Beksinski being shown here. So, those are the 4 paintings that depict his horrifying nightmarish megastructures. But before we finish, I want to put one more thing next to them. Somebody built a moving version of all of this, and he started from the exact same place that Beksinski did. The comic is called Blame by a man named Tsutomu Nihei. And here's the part that matters. He trained as an architect before he ever drew a page. The comic takes place inside one structure called the city. People used to control how it was built through a network, and you could only reach that network if you carried a specific gene. The machines that did the building, the builders, took their orders that way. Then a group wiped the gene out of the human race. After that, no one was able to tell the builders to stop, so they didn't. They kept building for centuries in every direction with no plan and no end, until the city grew roughly the size of a Dyson sphere. The man behind the comic said it reached past the orbit of Jupiter. Inside, it's endless concrete staircases that lead nowhere, and at one point, a sealed room the size of a planet. A man called Killy walks through it more or less forever, looking for one person who still carries the gene. That person could reach the network and shut it down. He mostly doesn't find them. What Nihei drew is the thing Beksinski painted. Both men trained as architects. Both understood exactly how a building is supposed to work, and both used it to draw buildings that had outlived its purpose and wouldn't stop. The difference is that Nihei tells you why. The lost gene, the builders with no one to command them. You know exactly why the city can't be switched off. Beksinski tells you nothing. He just shows you the structure and leaves you with the same question Hilly has been walking on. Who built this and why can't it be stopped? So those were the 4 paintings and the comic on top. And here's the part that keeps these paintings from settling. Beksinski thought we were all misreading them. He said the work was misunderstood, that a lot of it was optimistic, even funny, and that even he didn't know what it meant. He refused to title a single painting. He refused to explain one, and he died without ever clearing it up. In 1977, he burned a stack of his own work in his garden, with no record of what it was. In 2005, he was stabbed to death in his apartment by the 19-year-old son of his caretaker, over a loan he had turned down. The most horrifying megastructures ever painted, or a man quietly laughing at how seriously we take them? Tell me which one you land on in the comments. Go look at Beksinski's work. The museum's link is in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.